Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Shanmugha Sundaram, Assistant Professor, School of Civil Engineering. I just have three parts in today's presentation. The first part is Introduction to Data Science. Why I'm taking this is, when you are speaking about artificial intelligence, yesterday you just had a session on an elaborate introduction to what is an artificial intelligence, how it should be called. So when something has to be done in an artificial intelligence, the first important or the foremost raw material for that model is data. So I start with data science, and slowly we will progress into multiple regression analysis, a very simple thing in how to do it in Excel. So this is not a complete course on how to handle a data science or an artificial intelligence model with an Excel. This is an eye opener, or this is just an starting point of how to carry out a simple machine learning process or a simple artificial intelligence process, not machine learning, artificial intelligence process in an Excel sheet. So this will give you a further idea on how to do your own problem, so that you can use the multiple tools which is further available in the Microsoft Excel. Then we will go to MATLAB. Actually, MATLAB, what had happened for past few years is, it has been a myth like only the persons who know how to code in MATLAB can handle complicated problems. Actually, it is not that. As a civil engineer or as a domain-based engineer, if I am strong in my domain, I can use the available applications which is already existing inside the MATLAB just to take out it, and using graphical user interface, we can solve any problem. That is the concept of today's thing. So moving on to the topic, I just start with Edwards Deming quote: without data, you are just another person with an opinion. So only with proper data, you can just give your forecast or prediction. So without data, everything becomes an opinion. So this is already discussed yesterday. Just I'll show you. The construction industry is the least AI adapted industry when compared to that of other industries. So we have still a large amount of potential to carry out all these things. So we'll go to the session objective. The first one is understanding the data science basics. So what is data science pathway, role and goal and risks in data science in civil engineering, and data sourcing and formatting. A few case studies we will be seeing. So here, whatever I am presenting is what I, Ramesh Kannan sir, and another faculty, Dr. Karthiyani, we combined together, done in our college, in our institute, as an research work, as an consultancy, or as an article for any books or other things. So we are going to discuss the real-time projects or real-time projects what we had handled. So let us slowly go into data science. What is data science? Why I am again and again telling this data science is, this data science terminology has been made to believe us that it is something related to somewhat from other planet, or a computer science graduate, or a very high graduate who has some certification is in data science. Only those can handle. Actually, it is not that true. The data science can be handled by any professionals who have a large amount of logical skill and a minimum amount of mathematical and statistical skill. So what is data is? Data is separate, science is separate. Handling of data in a scientific way is called as data science. How we call an engineering mechanics, how we call as structural mechanics, how we call as mechanics of solids, how we call as fluid mechanics. Similarly, data science is reading and analyzing the behavior of that data. That is what data science means. So there are large amount of definitions which are available. Coding, math, statistics in applied settings. That was one definition. The second one is analysis of diverse data. Third definition is inclusive analysis. And we will have a fourth definition, like mechanics of a data is called as a data science. Because as a civil engineer, as a core engineering graduate, we will speak in this way. Studying about the behavior and studying about how the data behaves, that is the data science. So this is a Venn diagram drawn by Drew Conway and data scientist by nature. So according to his terminology, there are three circles in data science. One is coding. I had just made an alteration to that first circle. What I had made is coding or tool language. It is now in a modern day, tool language is enough for an core engineer to carry out his data as a data analytic output or a data scientific output. So what we want to understand is handling a tool will be enough for carrying out a project or a research. So code, okay, code is very advanced thing. If I know a code, nobody is going to say that code is not required. If I know code, that is an additional enhancement to my knowledge. But having a tool, good knowledge on a tool is enough for a data science related project in civil engineering. So we will show you how we had published a few papers in a high impact factor journals too. So the next circle is statistics. So as an engineer, the statistics is a very basic requirement for every engineer. So statistics, most of us have a normal basic background. So here statistics mean a very basic statistics. So the last third one is domain. So domain knowledge is what the domain knowledge is. I am very strong in concrete technology. So my domain is concrete. So if somebody comes here and don't understand a concrete, and suppose he say he don't know the difference between a clinker and a cement, then it does not mean anything to that person to have a knowledge on tool and statistics and carry out a data science in concrete technology or a civil engineering. That is not going to be working out. So your strong domain knowledge is very required. So I am very strong in concrete technology. So I have a confidence that I can carry out a data science project in concrete technology. Ramesh Kannan sir is very strong in farm work and construction management, which means that he is going to say that, okay, I am going to be very strong in a data science related project in a construction management. So you have to first enhance your domain. Is that now okay? Ramesh Kannan sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir. We had some little noise, but now it's okay. You can continue, sir.
Okay.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
It's okay. So that is very important here. So whenever we start speaking about a data science, without domain knowledge, without segregating what is concreting, what is hydration, what is other things, so nothing is going to happen in this field. So with strong domain knowledge, with a minimal codal provisions or tool provisions, and with minimum statistics, you can just give on flying out colors in data science related project. So just in this Venn diagram, we have to have the other basic things. If I know a good tool and a statistics, a good tool is there, good tool knowledge is there, a good statistical knowledge is there, but I don't have a domain knowledge, then that particular region falls under machine learning. So then if I have a good statistics and good domain knowledge, but I don't have any tool provisions or coding language, now it comes into traditional research, what we are doing as a civil engineer for longer time. Then I know a little bit of tool, I have a domain knowledge, but I don't have a statistical knowledge. That is a very dangerous zone. Okay, so that cannot be accepted as an research oriented zone. So this is what actually this is an established theory said by Drew Conway. So so the data scientist itself says that without the domain knowledge, we cannot persist or we cannot pursue what we want in a data science. So data science pathway, how the data science is going to travel. So normally a data science will have 4 steps. One is planning of data, second one is preparation of data, third one is modeling of data, and fourth one is follow-up of data. So we will go by one. Pathway. The first one is planning of data. How we are going to plan our data. So defining the goal is very important. For example, we will see a few examples here in this itself, but we'll tell defining goal is I want to create a model for a fiber reinforced concrete. Let us speak in this way. I want to create a model for fiber reinforced concrete. So that was the goal. I want to achieve a model which is going to give me the value for fiber reinforced concrete. Okay. Now in that, sub goals should be there. So what is the sub goals is, okay, what kind of fiber, whether it is in steel fiber or a carbon fiber or some other fibers. So when I just come here, I will now, one of my client will say, no, all kind of fiber. It is not specified through fibers. It should be, this model should be holding good for any kind of fiber. If he is saying it should be holding good for any kind of fiber, then I have to change my goals. So initially, whatever you are doing, we have to define the goals correctly. The second one is organizing the resources. Organizing of resources is very important here. So what resources here you are going to handle is data as a resource. So you are going to handle data as a resource. You have to organize it. So here, when you are having a minimal amount of data, you can just go for manual organization, like putting a separate folders, naming it, and other things. So when it goes like a huge amount of data, there comes a few advanced knowledge like SQL or handling of database management system that comes into existence. The third one is coordinating the goals. So the coordinating the goals is you have to coordinate the goals along with the resources. For example, I just started with an example of fiber reinforced concrete because that is the example which I am going to show in the next slides. So if I am asking for fiber reinforced concrete, I have to organize the resources based on fiber reinforced concrete. I have to coordinate both. Instead of if I am collecting something like fly ash based concrete or GGBS based concrete, that is not going to give me anything. So coordination here is important. And the fourth one is scheduling. So how I am going to schedule my planning, how I am going to plan or how I am going to schedule this pathway. The second step is data preparation. Okay. So now you had defined the goal. You had planned everything. Now you had started the preparation. What is the preparation of data? So get the data, clean the data, explore the data, refine the data. These are the 4 steps which is being said in data science terminology. So don't confuse these terminologies and all. It is very simple. I'll tell you how. So I have an example of this fiber reinforced concrete. Is my Excel sheet visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, this has been published in 2019 in Advances in Material Science and Engineering, which has an impact factor of 1.9. So how this model was created is, we had taken 293 journals, right? 293 journals, which is completely related to fibers. So you can just see here, I had presented here very basic things. So it has been like glass fibers, polypropylene fibers, basalt fibers, steel fibers, everything has been presented here. So everything has been taken. Okay. So now what we have done is, our goal initially was to create a model which is going to give us the fiber reinforced concrete compression strength, tensile strength, and flexural strength. Understand one thing, why we took this problem is, there are large amount of equations. There are large amount of equations available in subjects which speaks about action of flexural strength and tension strength for composites. But no composite equation is so reliable more than 75%. The reason behind is, you cannot predict how the fiber's orientation is going to be in your concrete. So in basic, when I add some fiber, it can be any kind of fiber. The first one is the fiber's strength. The fiber's own strength and its Young's modulus plays the role. The second one is its orientation. How well it gets dispersed matters. The third one is what kind of admixtures we are adding to just get the fiber strength achieved. And the fourth one is how much water cement ratio. All these combined together will create as a model. So this is the raw data. What we had done is, we had collected 293 data. We had collected whatever we could derive from that journals. Okay, starting from ratio of flexural strength, control flexural strength in MPa, ratio of tensile strength of control specimen, tensile strength of the other specimens, Young's modulus of the, here the Young's modulus means Young's modulus of the fiber, strain in fiber. So everything, whatever data we could collect, we had collected. This is called as the raw data. Understand this? This is called as the raw data. Okay. Did my slide came again?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we had collected a set of raw data. You just saw that how the raw data was there. So the next one is cleaning of data. The cleaning of data is very important. How will I clean a data? As a basic core engineer, you don't have to write any code and all to clean the data. Reading of data or exploring of data, that step 3 is very important, exploring of data. So how we had read this, you just apply the domain knowledge. So based on your domain knowledge, you know which are the inputs that is valid, which are the inputs that is not valid. So let us say shape of the specimen is mostly not going to cause huge noise in your model. For example, if I'm testing a compressive strength using a cylinder, using a cube, there will be a variation, and there is a formula based on American Concrete Institute Codal provision, which shows that the cylinder's strength might be differing from the cube strength different. But the difference is very minimal, so that you can avoid this shape function. Why I am avoiding this shape function is, understand one thing, when I am carrying out something in Excel as a multiple regression analysis, the first limitation in me is, which is being put on me is, I can use only the numbers. I cannot use any other things. Only numbers are valid to carry out a multiple regression analysis. Qualitative analysis is completely different. That we will have another example. So what we had done here is, this is not required. Okay. Still, if I need something to be added in that way, okay, I can just collect the area of compressive strength specimen. The specimen which is tested for compressive strength, that area, the face area can be taken. This is an alternative provision. Okay. So this is how you plan, and this is how you create and explore the data. And then when you just read the data, you will automatically try to you will be identifying there will be some data which is completely irrelevant. Okay. The why I'm saying irrelevant is, for example, a simple technology of applying filter. Okay. So apply a filter. Okay. And apply a filter and just put an filtering theme. So when I just go here, something might come and something might not come. So here you can see that ultrafine minerals is used, water reducing admixture is used, superplasticizer is used, sulfonate based superplasticizer. So we are speaking about admixture, suddenly coming metakaolin. Okay, we were normally speaking about the admixture, which is completely that journal which has used for water reducing, as an water reducing admixture. Some immediately a Pozzolanic material is coming, metakaolin is coming. So which means that if that is relevant, I will keep, or else I will not keep. Similarly, you just go here, you just see the tensile strength. If something tensile strength is 0, the 0 will create lot of sound in your specimen. Why you are having a 0 specimen? Go and explore the data. So I just put why 0 is coming. So percentage of fiber is 0, tensile strength is 0, something has occurred. So while taking the admixture, while taking the data, some error has been occurred. So now that is actually not correct. So I have to clean this data. Either I should re-explore, I should again go to the journal and see what had happened. Otherwise, I have, if this is an additional value or a value which is not relevant to my work, I have to delete the value. This is what exploring of data means. So applying of filters and exploring the data manually is the first step. You can do it in Excel. Okay. Apply the filter. Automatically each column you just go and see whether it is relevant or irrelevant. See basalt fiber 36 mm, 50 mm. You can just see the mm, and you can just see hooked steel fibers. Likewise, you can see large amount of fibers which is being used. You can see these many fibers we had used. And the most important thing is, another thing what we have done here is, our goal while we are planning, we had a goal or an objective that we should not limit it for a single fiber. So normally when we add a fiber, the existence of fiber makes the complication of calculating the tensile strength and the flexural strength. That is common. So what we had planned is, we should not limit it to one fiber. Whatever fiber it is, it should give a result. So only we collected huge amount of data. So we collected these many amount of fibers. So we defined these fibers not as a glass fiber. Instead, what we had done is we had defined it with its own tensile strength and its Young's modulus. That is how you have done. So we worked again and again. We just thought we had on brainstorming sessions. Then finally we derived that okay, tensile strength of the fiber and Young's modulus of the fiber will be the good option to define the fiber type. So we had that as an alternative. So this is what the raw data. So after exploring, after sitting, and after a large amount of work, you will be getting a cleaned data. So you can just see out of 293 journals, we had took 252 journals because we found that the 41 journals were completely irrelevant due to different factors. Then we just decided we will be going by only these as an input and these three. Compressive strength, these three as the output. So this yellow highlighted were the output and others were the input. After that was the raw data which I showed earlier. After cleaning, after exploring, we had created this data model, okay, with 252 models. So this is how a data preparation will be. So initially, what I am not speaking about how to handle an SQL, how to handle an other database management system. A simple data can be manually handled easily if you have a good domain knowledge. That is what I came here to say. So that was the one thing. So we had cleaned the data. So the next one, what we had done is we had modeled the data. So how we had modeled is we have to create a model, validate that model, evaluate that model, and refine the model. Okay. So you just see this model was taken from gold prices for past few years. Okay, so you can just see from 1969 to 2019 gold prices were listed completely. So annual percentage of change, this is what is expected in modeling. How you are exploring the data, how you are representing the data, how you are visualizing the data. Okay, that is how the modeled thing is there. So another one example which I actually do is the earlier one what I show. So here you can just see that I'll just put an additional data. So I'm merging. So this is what all the input is all about. So here you can just see that I'm just highlighting it with yellow. This is the input parameters and this is the target parameter. So the next important thing is in modeling, we will be using two terminologies. One is input and the second one is target. Actually, it is not an output. Be clear, it is a target. So input are these many and target are one. Okay. So similarly, we will be having different targets for different things. So what had happened is we were speaking about MRA. Okay, so I'm just hiding the artificial neural network, which we will be looking on later. So MRA predicted value, I had used the data analysis tool to predict, and we had predicted it here. Okay, so now I will just take this as an example, and I will show you how to predict it. Okay, how to predict it. I'm taking very minimal amount of data just for the storing the bandwidth. Okay. Sir, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now here you can just see that these are the input what I had taken. As I already told. I told this is as an input and this as a target. Sorry. So this is the input and this is the target. So I want to carry out a multiple regression analysis using a normal Excel sheet. So you just go to data. Inside data, you will be having a add-on package called data analysis. Otherwise, you can just go and install it. It is free of cost if your Excel is a valid version. So you have, what you have to do is you are not going to do any rocket science or any coding and all. You just click on the data science, data analysis. So data analysis tool is an effective tool in Excel. There are large amount of data analysis tool existing, starting from sampling, even ANOVA analysis, single factor, two factor without replications and all available. So you just go to the basic prediction model or a regression model. So you just select regression here. I had selected regression here, and sir, my pop-up menu and all is visible, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So there will be, after selecting OK, you will be having an pop-up menu which is showing that you have to select the Y range and X range. Understand one thing, the Y range will always be the target. So I just told you, you have to use two terminologies. One terminology is input and the second terminology target. So always target will be the Y axis and input will be the X axis. Understand in multiple regression analysis. So what I am going to do is I am going to take out the Y axis. So take out the Y axis I know it is target. So select the target completely. So if there is 1,000 targets, you just go for the 1,000 targets, right? Then coming on to the model, I had selected the target. Now I have to select the input. So X axis is input. So select the X axis. So after selecting this X axis and after selecting the Y axis, you will be asked to have the confidence level. So always keep the confidence level as 95%, which means that the 95% confidence level is being put on multiple regression analysis. So why cannot be changed into 100%? When you change the 100% confidence level, what will happen is there will be too much of stress that is being put on the model, which can have a negative impact also. So give a 5% offset, keep it as 95% always. So where will be the output displayed? So either you can have a separate workbook or separate sheet or output range. So now I am giving an output range here. So I am just selecting a small area here where my output is displayed or output should be displayed. So I had just selected the output there. So here these and all, if you want the residuals and other things to be calculated, these are the basic statistical terminologies: residual plots, standardized residuals, and line plot. If you need, you can just tick on. Otherwise, you no need to tick. I am not ticking it off because I want to explain you how to carry out a multiple regression analysis to predict the value. So for prediction, these and all is not required. So I am not using that. So I just click OK. So you can just see that an output that came, a summary of output has came. Okay. So understand, in this output, this box is very important, which will show you R square value. I think if you are good in statistics, you know what is R square. So R square will be always lying within 1. And if the R square value is more than 80, then that model holds good or fit. I will show you how the R square value is manually calculated. Okay. So this is the output which will tell what is the regression and other things and all. So here the most important two things is, one is this box which gives you the coefficient, and the second one is the p-value. Okay, now I am not going to speak about the p-value. So p-value is a little bit advanced statistics which we will be handling later on, but we will be speaking about how to carry out the predictive equation. So this is the predictive equation which is being required. Okay, so x1 variable, y1 variable. Now I am just again putting it just for the, once you are very well good enough in this model, you no need to do all these and all. You can just direct away do the calculation. Just for the purpose of understanding, I am doing this. So the first input is called as x1, the second one is called as x2, the third one is called as x3, the fourth one is called as x4, the fifth one is called as x5, and the sixth one is called as x6. Okay, and the target is going to be the target, and you are going to have a new value called as the predicted value. Okay, you are going to have a predicted value. Okay, how I am going to predict the value? So a very simple equation. You just see I had put is equal to am I visible to everybody?
Yes, sir.
So just put on is equal to sign. So x1 is here. The coefficient for the x1 is here. Okay. So always is equal to starts with an intercept. So what I'm doing is I'm just putting the intercept here. So the first one is intercept is the constant for the total equation. The constant which is being derived for the total equation. I'm putting on the intercept. Okay. I had put on the intercept plus open bracket the first variable into x1. Okay. First variable into x1. Understand here? Variable 1 into x1, variable 2 into x2, variable 3 into x3. In that way, you will be going. So similarly, plus the second variable. So second variable into x2. Then plus again. So the third variable into x3. Next one is the fourth variable into x4, and the fifth variable into x5.
So the open bracket is missing here.
Yes, sir. And again, the last one is sixth variable into. So you can just see here, the predicted value is 74.77 and your actual value is 75.41. Understand this? Now you got an equation. Now almost you got an equation. Which equation? The equation is going to specify it in this way is equal to the coefficient minus 5.549 plus I1 x1 plus I2 x2 plus I3 x3. In that way, you are going to put it on. So you will be calling it as coefficient 1. CF1, CF2, CF3, you can just call here as in this way. So you just call CF1, CF2. In that way, if you are putting, automatically you will be getting an equation. That is how this equation has been formed. Okay. So this predicted value, you can just see while I was conducted, that equation came 73.14 because I had large amount of data. Now I had copied only minimal amount of data. I had almost 253 journals. Now I just copied only 233 data. So I had a different coefficient and a different equation that came. So now how I will be checking my regression value? Okay. So R square value. It was very simple. So this was the actual was 75.41 as per the journal. That author had got 70.41. Now, based on the total data model, I had derived a equation. That equation derived is giving me 73.14. So similarly, I will be plotting for all a scatter plot. You can just see that model. A scatter plot is being marked. Okay. So scatter plot, I think you know, go to insert and in chart, you will be having a option called a scatter plot. So you will be preparing a scatter plot. Okay. After preparing the scatter plot, what I will be doing is I will be clicking onto that and I will be inserting the trend line. You just see here, I will be clicking on my data. Okay. I have now selected the data. Now what I had done is I had right clicked it. So automatically there will be some options which will show add a trend line option. So for that scatter plot, I will be adding a trend line. The trend line will have a lot of things: exponential, logarithmic, polynomial, power. Understand one thing, what you are doing is multiple regression analysis, which is a linear analysis. You are not doing a non-linear analysis. You are doing a linear analysis. So what you have to select is you have to select the linear plot here. So linear trend line, you just click on, and what you have to tell is you have to tell display R square equation or R square value on the chart. And display equation is not required because you are not comparing between y and x. You are comparing between the total input and the target. So you don't have to tick display equation on chart. You just tick display R square value on chart. Okay. So after selecting the R square value on chart, what we will be doing is we will be just going out of this. So now you just see here 0.93 what I got. So just when you just go and check my output, actually I had a separate file for output. That output file will also tell 0.93. In this, see here, for us it showed 0.93. Similar 0.93 came for that value. This is how a multiple regression analysis will be carried out with the data model in an Excel sheet in your Excel, normal MS Excel. The most important here is one thing. We had created the model. You know how we had created the model. We had validated the model. Validated is again exploring such kind of things. We had evaluated the model. Evaluated is nothing but we had run the model and refined the model. So how I will do refining is, I'll tell you how the refining can be done. So you can just see here. So there are, see, these are the noised parameters or the noised data. You can just see these plots which is away from the trend line. This black line is the trend line and these are the away trend line. So you just see here when I select this, where this point is lying. Just go to that point in that chart. Okay. In our data set, you just go to this point and see why this much deviation from the trend line is occurring. You might observe some results. That is what it known as refining of model. If constantly one journal, for example, in my case I'm saying one journal is causing too much of variation, just delete that input and create a new model. Okay, because that model, why it is creating so much noises or why it is creating so much deviation is that author might have a different kind of exposure, or else see, while I'm collecting 293 journals, what would happen possibly is I might have selected 1 or 2 journals which is related to geopolymer with fiber. Actually concrete behaves in a different way, geopolymer behaves in a different way. Both does not come together in the material properties, like when we are speaking about Poisson's ratio or Young's modulus. So what here happen is I want to just take that out. For that, refining of model is important. This is how the modeling is done. Okay. So the next one is following up of the model. How the following up of the model is taken place is, now we will be presenting the model. Then it has been deployed. It has been deployed is like it has been created with an equation. That equation is being deployed. So revisit the model again and again. So try to find new. So now these are the data which is involved. Try to take some other data which is not involved in this in this data set. For example, out of this 293, take something which is not relevant to this. Take a glass fiber and see what is the exact value they are getting. Okay, if suppose they are getting 40 megapascal, you put on in your equation and check whether it is coming correct or not coming correct. If it is again within the value of 90% or 95% error value, then your model is holding good. So whenever you get an opportunity, you have to check that model, revisit the model, recheck the model. And whenever there is a large amount of deviation, for example, I spoke all things about that. I can find one basic flaw in my model. The basic flaw is I didn't have any input related to hybrid fibers. So we had only the constant fibers like normal fibers. We didn't have an hybrid fiber, or we didn't have a combined blended fibers like a certain amount of steel and a certain amount of carbon, a certain amount of polypropylene and a certain amount of carbon. Such kind of inputs were not given to my model. So when that comes, my model gets upset. So it will not behave properly. At that time, I have to revisit and new things has to be added to that model. That is what revisiting a model. Archive the asset. So here I was purposefully using the terminology asset. Why I'm using this terminology asset, I'll tell you why. Out of all this, I told you with basic Excel and with basic small amount of MATLAB application, I can even publish in a 1.5 impact factor journal. That shows how much value this data carries. Okay, as a researcher, okay, as a researcher, as a consultant, it has a large amount of value. So this can be even actually I and Ramesh Kannan sir are working out with these kind of equations to create a software which will be copyrighted in VIT's name. So these assets are going to be very much useful throughout your research phenomena or consulting phenomena. So what you have to do is never think that, okay, whatever the raw data I earlier projected is useless, don't throw it away. That are under asset. That asset might be a raw asset or a cleaned asset. That is not an issue. But that asset should be as an asset. The data should be asset data. So that is why I use the terminology perfectly. Archive the data is not the term here. Now it has become an asset. Archive the assets. Okay. So now slowly we will go again into what kind of. So with this, I want to again. Before this, I want to come again. Is there any doubt in that handling of Excel? So that we will go to the next part. Is that handling of Excel known to everybody? Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I'll just move on to the next part of the presentation. So what are the roles in the data science? Okay, as a civil engineer, what is, so why actually we as a team took all this effort to take out this artificial intelligence, machine learning and data sciences? Data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, these terminologies are completely different, or these all are completely the subset of artificial intelligence. Data science, machine learning, deep learning, reinforced learning, everything comes under artificial intelligence. But the thing is, we as a civil engineer always believe one common myth that these terminologies are not meant for us. No, actually it is meant for us. When you just go into the industry and when you go into certain data analytic industry like Deloitte and other things, you can find pharmacologists who is working there, doctors who is working there, historians who is working there. What are they going to do in data science? If they can contribute to data science, why can't a civil engineer contribute to the data science? That is the major aspect why we created these kind of courses. Okay, so here engineering as an hardware and a software, that is completely different. So I should have some software knowledge or some software debugging knowledge and other things, and handling of hardware, that is a role of an engineer. So the second one is data specialist. So data specialist is, for example, if a data is being presented in concrete technology, immediately I can just go through the data, because the thing is, if a mass amount of data, if you are giving me 20,000 data set, and if you want to read that, me to read that in a single day, I can just do it in a single day, because now I had developed as a data specialist. The third one is researcher. Yes, we had just started using that data, and we had started publishing the papers and publishing our works and getting the funds and other things and all. So as a researcher, I can use the data. Analyst is completely different. What analyst will do is, out of all this, he will analyze the overall view, and he will just go on, move on, refine and do all the things. Okay, these are the 4 important roles in the data science. So in right hand corner of my slide, you can just say or see a terminology called as unicorn. So what is that unicorn means? All the 4 cannot be in a single person. That is the here. I am not actually trying to demotivate. I am basically making you to understand the importance of teamwork here. As a data science methodological scientist, what you have to understand is data science can be achieved greater heights only through teamwork. In a team, one might be a good data specialist, another might be a good data analyst. Data specialist is different from data analyst. So understand that thing, and all the 4 combined together will always not be a possible effort. But you can carry out and research and you can carry out a project with whatever knowledge you acquire as a data specialist and a researcher. So you can just start. But when you want to go more into it, for example, an engineer, a software engineer, if you want to derive a new algorithm, okay, that is completely different domain. If I want to do a new model or transform a model from one part to another part, that is the job of an analyst. That is different. But he cannot come and have a research oriented thing. So these and all the confusing terms. We have to be clear on that. Okay. Now, a new data science is being available. When the volume, velocity, and variety, V cube, it is called as a V cube, volume, velocity, and variety. When these three is completely bound out of a certain limit, their new data science evolved. That is called as a big data. That big data cannot be handled with a normal laptop or cannot be handled with a normal thing. You need a lot of sophistication like a cloud server, an SQL database management system, and to make your data work, you need a complicated models or complicated tools, which is perfectly available for big data alone. Okay, now data science, we are speaking about data science. So again, there is again a large amount of confusion that will be thrown out of us. Data analysis and data science are common. No, data analysis is different from data science. So you know now what is in data science. Data science is combination of a coding language or a tool language along with your statistical background with good domain knowledge. Again, I am reiterating that good domain knowledge. So that is how a data science evolved. Okay, what is this with the data analytics? With that data science knowledge, with advanced statistical knowledge, understand that advanced statistical knowledge. So when these both combine together with the normal data science knowledge, with coding, a simple data science and a domain, how to apply, that is data science. Now I have advanced myself with the advanced statistics. Now when both combine together, then it becomes a data analytics. That is how the data analytics evolved. So data science goal. We had completed the data science pathway. You just saw examples on data science pathway. Now we will go into data science goal. So what is this data science goal? First goal is to source data, get the data from anywhere possible. That was the first thing. The second one is coding, either programming or ordering of the sourced data. The third one is mathematics behind the data science. The fourth one is statistics to summarize and analyze your data, to see that whether your data is getting validated or not. And the fifth one is a very common subset of all this machine learning process or a prediction process. Okay, you have to, so now I told you I got an equation from that multiple regression analysis. I just showed you what that equation was, how the equation was there. So a constant plus I1 x1 value plus I2 x2, I3 x3, that was an equation we got. So that equation can simply be typed inside an Excel sheet. We can create a window, and whenever an input is given, an output will be coming out. That is the very simple prediction process. Okay, so that was the fifth process. That is how we deploy it. So raw materials for data science. How the raw material for the data science can be collected. So the number one is existing data. So we have, that is what we started with. We started with an existing data, that we had a large amount of journals available in Science Direct. We just went on exploring that. That project took us 6 months period. So the first 3 to 4 months, we were just sitting on collecting the PDF and sourcing it and scratching it. I will tell you how to scratch the data later on. So we started collecting it. So existing data, either it can be a repository. Repository is like, see, don't only think that Science Direct. Sometimes your laptop old folder will also act as an raw material. So once actually, one of my recent publication was creating a multiple regression analysis model using for an fly ash of class F and class C fly ashes with different proportions. Okay, just it has been published in November. It to be indexed in Scopus. So for that paper, when you just see, that paper is completely out of my 10 years of work. So whenever I have my simple J component or simple projects to given to my students, the student always first think that, sir, how will that fly ash and cement works together? Okay. Immediately I'll tell that, okay, go and put an different proportion of fly ash and cement and get an value. So automatically he would give the value. So for past 5 to 6 years, I got a huge amount of value. I had structured that value and I had applied a multiple regression analysis in an Excel sheet in different methodologies. I had derived 2 to 3 equations, and that equations is being published. That's all. So repository does not mean the science direct or a cloud server and other thing. A normal laptop folder is also a repository. Use it very well. So the second one is import.io is an available online based repository where you can get large amount of data. Kaggle.com, datakind.org, and menly.com. Menly.com actually is a part of Science Direct. So you can just get many scientific data from menly.com. The second one is use data application programming interfaces. So API. So when we go to MATLAB, you will be seeing how API is being applied. So the third one is web data, scratching it from the web. And the fourth one is make data. So I'll show you a few examples how we can make data. So I told you in multiple regression analysis, quantitative analysis can only be done. So what is quantitative analysis here means? Quantitative analysis is very simple. It is analysis made with numbers. What happened to qualitative? In a few papers in construction management, for example, Ramesh Kannan sir is also working. So taking on surveys and understanding the behavior patterns, understanding the delay analysis. So these and all will be the interview survey, and finally the experiments. You keep in mind, experiment can also become a data set. So in PhD, normally our gates will come and tell that, see, if you want to complete the PhD, you have to put the 1,000 cubes in mass. Okay, I had casted as my guide set 1,000 cubes with the different proportions, or 150 mixes has been made, and all has been done, and the material science has been it has been published in high impact factor. Okay, what you are going to do with all that 150 or 170 mix IDs? What you are going to do? Automatically what you will be finally saying is, sir, that is preliminary investigation. Through that I had derived this trial and error method. For using the trial and error method, I had finally had a 10 valid mix IDs which is being presented in my thesis. What happened to the other 160? That can act as an asset for your model, which can create a model. It can be either through an Excel sheet or a MATLAB. That is not an issue here. But that is what the experimental data is all about. Okay. So data sourcing, again, when it comes measuring and evaluating data is very important. Assessing of data is very important. Creating new and custom data is very, very important. So initially I started with, I just told you, that was the first paper which I showed you in 2018, fiber reinforced concrete using multiple regression analysis in a simple Excel sheet. So now when I want to convert that into a software, large amount of input needed. Actually Ramesh Kannan sir and I sat together and we found a lot of errors in that thing. That is, we just had an issues with some input values. We started correcting that inputs and all. We again fine-tuned that equations. That is very important in the data sourcing. So data scrapping, this is the very important. How to take data? Let me say how we took a data easily. I will just demonstrate that if okay, I'll just show you. So web scraper, data scraper, etc. So application scrapping. So how application scrapping is, if something is inside the application, web scraper and data scrapers are available tools either in open source or paid version. You can just search in Google what is a web scraper, or download a web scraper or download a data scraper. It can be easily downloaded. I will tell you how we had scrapped the data. Okay. Is my Google Sheet visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you just see here data scrapping. What I had done here is actually I'm just now taking the goods return because now I had not logged into my Science Direct. So see, I'll just enlarge the screen and I will show you. There is a simple terminology, import HTML. So what I will put is in normal Google Sheet, I will put is equal to import HTML, open brackets, double quote, from which website I have to download. For example, if I have the Science Direct access, I can just open the total article in the HTML format. Okay. In a normal HTML format, I can open the complete document. Now I had opened it. So now what I will do is https dot this and all, I'll be copying directly from there. Okay. So in that, there will be list like table 1, table 2, table 3, that you know. So you just see here, I will just again show you. The website address is copied here inside the double quote. Then I will be putting a comma, then double quote open, table, double quote close, and a comma, which number table I want to scrap it out. So I want to scrap either second table, or I want to scrap third table, I want to scrap fourth table. So there will be large amount of table that you know. So in that article, which table I want to scrap it out. So just I will be writing and I will be just entering it. Just to see here. So in that, table 2 has been scrapped. Now I will be just opening that website. I am now opening that website. You can just see table 2 has been scrapped and it had been came into this thing. So this is a very simple application in your Google Sheet. So what you will be doing is, it is known as the HTML scrap. Okay. So you are going to source out that HTML and you are going to get the values. So when I just use the sorry. Instead of table 2, I want to scrap table 1. So now table 1 has been scrapped. So whatever number of table you have to scrap, you can just scrap it. So automatically what we started getting is, we don't need to convert that PDF into a Word file, then copy it, or manual reading and all is not at all required. Instead, what we had followed is a simple HTML sourcing we had followed. This is how we use effectively the Google Sheet called HTML scrapping. So I'll just display the note. So HTML scrapping can be done using this simple technology. In cell, what you have to do is equal to import HTML, just open bracket. If you want, you can just download it, or otherwise I'll send it while sending the final files. So you can just use these as whatever website you have to scrap and table 2. Okay. So easily you can just scrap it out and you can use it into an Excel, then you can convert it. So there is no difficulty in scrapping of data. The only thing is, you have to logically think which data to be scrapped, which data to not to be scrapped. If I go and scrap a irrelevant table, it will congest my total Google Sheet. That is how we have to do. So we took this. See, even after falling into these kind of scrapping technologies, it took again 2 to 3 months to scrap all the data. And another one thing, there is an again a scrapping tool called as PDF scrapping, doc scrapper. But doc scrapper is not available free of cost. But when you are going to scrap huge amount of PDF files, you can use this doc scrapper to scrap all the files. Automatically it will scrap and it will exhaust only the tables what you are giving or you are needed. Completely you can use that into an Excel sheet. Okay. So this was a very common terminology used, garbage in and garbage out. So pay attention to the metrics and meaning of all the data. So whenever there some data is irrelevant, for example, let me say if I'm using a model for fly ash, percentage of fly ash is required, cement content is required, water content is required, fine aggregate, coarse aggregate, something, all other things are required. Okay, some irrelevant data is there. For example, fly ash loss in ignition. Actually, fly ash loss in ignition is not going to cause so much of trouble, because for fly ash, silica content is going to have an enhancing effect on your strength parameter. No other thing. Calcium is not going to have anything, any characteristics. For instance, if calcium is more, it will have an adverse effect. If calcium is less, no issues. But I am more concerned about silica and alumina, which is present there. Now I no need to concentrate on something which is not available or which is nullified. I don't need to have a separate column for having a magnesium or for having an iron or having some other nitrates. That is not going to fetch me anything. That is how we have to see. So key performance indicator should be correctly identified. So for that, domain knowledge is the very important thing. And check the quality and the meaning of the data. Now I'll tell you one thing. When we started, we initially had too much of trouble, because we started downloading whatever journal which is coming across, but that caused a huge trouble for us. Then we understood that the quality of the journal is going to be very important for my model. The quality of the model is completely depending on the quality of the article or quality of the work which I am targeting. So automatically what happened is I want to check the quality and the meaning of the data. That is what this third. So in data science, they will be again and again using certain terms called as analyzing, visualizing. What is visualizing? What I told you in this. This is what visualization. So I had just plotted a graph between the actual value and the predicted value. And I had just added a trend line. Now I had shown you which one is deviating, which is not deviating. This is what the visualization means. So for visualization, what are the application? Visualization analyzing, what are the application? A normal spreadsheet. Tableau is an important software. Actually, Tableau is similar to that of SPSS and spreadsheet. The only thing is for carrying out complex problems, you need to have a paid version. Otherwise, free of version, it is in public domain actually. So if your data is more confidential, or if you are working for an research work or your own PhD, Tableau is not recommended until and unless you have the paid version. So JASP is another version and Origin is another version. Mostly we use as civil engineers or as a normal core engineering graduates, we usually use again and again spreadsheets, SPSS and Origin. In coding, Python and MATLAB are two important applications that can help us in visualizing. So MATLAB, I will be telling you how to use a graphical user interface application, and tomorrow Ramesh Kannan sir will tell how to use Python through this. See, the down part, I think if it is not visible, you just enlarge, you zoom in your screen and you just see the down part. I had simply written tool is just a tool, goal is the insight. So don't put too much stress or too much effort on the tools. Instead, try to strengthen your core domain. That will give you a lot of idea on how to use all these tools. That is what I have to tell here. So exploring the data through graphics, through statistics. So we will have certain examples here. Okay. So this is one of my student. I think he is also inside this meeting. His project actually. So we have to visualize, or we have to have a graphical representation. So sample one, you just see here. These are the graphical representation which we had done. So this multiple regression analysis, what we have done is influence of the chemical parameters of admixtures like silica, alumina, ferrous, calcium oxide. You can just see here, magnesium oxide is SO3. So all these are the input values: water bar binder ratio, replacement to the cement, fine aggregate, coarse aggregate, cement content, all this as an input, and we had a compressive strength as a target. So there were first 11 inputs. We tried one. So then we just deleted. As I told you, read your data, go through your data. When you just see, we had deleted magnesium oxide here in this one, and we had again conducted. So we had a 9. So then we had the next one, next model, which had a 10, where SO3, sorry, which one we had deleted? I forgot. So we had a 10 input value. Then we had 8 input value. And then we had, sorry?
You missed Fe2O3, sir, in that. You have removed that Fe2O3.
Yes, sir. Yes, Fe2O3 we had removed. So likewise, we had a multiple time trials. Okay, so this is what a trial is all means. Nowadays, concrete technology does not need again and again going and putting a huge amount of concrete and wasting the cement. Now the economy is going very bad. You don't have to waste cement. You have enough inputs. Try to take out that input and create an input. So you just see here so much of data. We had used so much of data, and we had created so much of trials. Out of these trials, we tried to understand which trial is best suited. Through that, we understood which chemical parameters is the more influencing parameter, which combination of chemical parameters are most influencing parameter. This is how he comes to understand, as an MTech graduate, he comes to understand that how the concrete works or how the concrete behaves. Okay, so see here, the R square value slowly changed like this, and 0.770, trial 3 had a maximum regression value. So similarly, we had an artificial neural network also, where we had studied that was using multiple regression analysis, the basic Excel, what we had earlier seen. Now this is using artificial neural network. We just saw different things, and these are the things. So these are how the things work through graphics. Okay, just this is one another one colleague's paper, where you can just see that. I'll just show you what the topic is. The topic is experimental investigation on GEP modeling. GEP modeling is nothing but genetic algorithm. So of compressive strength of ferrosiliciate based geopolymer mortars. So he had used geopolymer. Here he had not used anything like what we had used like from early parameters. What he had done is, so these are the functions used in the programmings, and I'll just go to the input value. Where is input is? So he had casted 35 different mix IDs. Okay, for all these 35 different mix IDs, what had happened is he had the values. Instead of only discussing on that parameter, the compressive strength parameter, he had created his own model. See, all these are the inputs and these are the outputs. So all these belongs to input. Even the curing duration, everything had been input, and he had created an genetic algorithm model. And similarly, he had derived an equation. That equation, sorry if your eyes are straining. I'll just try to stop it. See, he had derived an equation like what we had derived it through the model using multiple regression analysis. For him, this showed more convincing result than that of the multiple regression model. But he didn't do it in artificial neural network. If he had done it in artificial neural network, it would have been more enhancing thing. But he had stopped with genetic algorithm. So that was how this graphical representation should be made. So let us take now let us go for the next terminology called as data space. What is data space is dimension reduction, clustering, and k-means. And tomorrow our Ramesh Kannan sir will be dealing with this clustering process and other things. So I'm just skipping on to the next process, data processing category. So normally data processing categories or predictions can be done using the following 6 parameters, categories. So while doing the 6 categories, I am not limiting this to 6 categories. These 6 categories are popularly used, particularly for civil engineering application. So one is regression, linear and non-linear regression. The second one is neural net. Third one is naive-Bayes algorithm. Fourth one is decision tree. Fifth one is support vector machine algorithm. And sixth one is evolutionary algorithm, which I showed you. That is the part of a genetic algorithm. Okay. What here we have to understand is our data speaks. Our data does not sit quiet. Your data always speaks. So you just try one model in your home with your normal input what you have. You might have done it in your BTech, or you might have done it in your MTech, or you might have done it during your diploma. Take that table and create a model, try to derive an equation and check that model. Every data speaks, and try to have an additional assumption in data which is added to that model. You will see that there will be a drastic difference in that model. Okay, so data driven stories. So I will just touch through, because we have to touch MATLAB application. That last half an hour will do. And what is data driven story? Nowadays, the order of the day, or the most fashionable part is telling a story or talking to a public with the support of data, not with the support of your opinion. So that only I started with my presentation. So I'll just tell this story one. So here, this is actually a collective data. What we have done is, this is done as a consultancy project for a nearby industry. So they had a lot of delay in their construction. Actually, I am not basically from a construction management background. Okay, so but we just thought we can create a model. So through early literatures, what we had done is we had taken 59 questionnaires, which is being floated for all the stakeholders inside that company, inside that project. We floated for all the stakeholders. So every questionnaire was mapped with 10 different kinds of risk factors. So one questionnaire is, for example, see here, out of the 59 questionnaires, question number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is completely mapped with management risk. So similarly, we had done, and all the things were collected. How the collection were made is, it was not like yes or no. It was like, okay, see here, defective management decision. If you think that the delays are caused due to the defective management decision, you just put how you are responding out of a scale of 1 to 5. So some will tell that I am having a, they will mark it as 2. Some will have 3. So there should be some marking. Either it should be 1 or it should be 5, or it should be somewhere within 1 to 5. You cannot mark as no. So what we had done is, we had collected all that things and we had modeled it. And this model actually then after modeling, there is in statistics called as ranking. So what we have done is, using that normal statistical behavior, we had marked as an important index and we ranked it, and we just tried to find which one is more vulnerable and which one is not vulnerable. So this is how we started telling the client's story that, okay, management risk is vulnerable. How many percentage of persons has told that management defective decisions have been taken? That can tell you a large amount of story. So this is how story one. Actually, this is also published in one journal. And the second one is this. This was by sorry. This was published in 2018. So this is completely a stress analysis on employers. So what we have done is, in construction industry, we just took engineering and supervising level employees, and we had conducted this complete analysis on 100 samples. Okay, so we just asked them to answer the question yes or no, and these questionnaires were taken from the International Mental Health Organization's Bureau's repository. We took 25 questions from that. What we had done is, we had just made a few small adjustments to match our culture. So based on that matching, what we had done is, we had just analyzed this and all, completely visualized, and finally you can just see that there were 48% of the employees out of these 100 samples where we had collected was under stress levels of stress 3, which needs that immediate attention, immediate psychiatrical or psychological attention is needed for these 48%. And 35% is in the border of shifting themselves into stress 3. So immediately the company or the person who is in responsible should take care of this 35%, and 17% alone is in a stress-free region. So this is completely mapped with their performance also. Understand this? This does not end here. This data does not end here. After taking this, what we had done is these 48%, how this performance were, their performance were there, and what is this 17% employees performance, that is completely mapped with that performance, and that has been given as a consultancy to them. This is how the data speaks here. Data science goals analysis is the goal, is goal driven. Okay, so while I'm doing all the analysis, the first important thing I started with that my goal should be a very definitive goal. If your goal is keep on changing, your data will never be worthful for you. The story should match the goal. As I said, in fiber reinforced concrete, after that, and now if I have the total sheet in my hand, I can start telling the story that okay, whenever you have a glass fiber, this will occur. When compressive strength is too high, then it will not be correctly matching with the tensile strength value and the flexural strength value due to the loss in its elasticity. All these kind of stories can be derived from these kind of Excel sheets. Question should be oriented towards goals. So when you are putting it as a survey, it should be oriented towards your goal. So as I said, all these questionnaires, these 25 questionnaires or that 59 questionnaires, if irrelevant questions are there, that is not going to give you anything. So you have to find the questionnaires in the right way. So factors influencing the data science is very important. Mission of your identity is very important. That is, the sourcing of data is very important, and in what context you are going to present it, that is also very important. So future proofing. So future proofing is, as I told earlier, this is to be considered as an asset. It should not be considered as an liability. It should be considered as an asset, and it should be kept as safe as you could. Store it everywhere you could. Store it in a cloud, store it in a drive, store it in your laptop, wherever you need, but every data is important here. Okay, these and all a simple thing, how to make data. So a normal interview, surveys, card sorting experiments and other things. So these and all A/B testing is what actually is done in the software industry. So multiple version of your data analytics model should be done, and everything should be visited randomly. Everything should be compared. As I told, that equation again and again, whenever you come across a new result, you just match it with your older equation and see whether still that equation is holding good. You at some point of time you will understand that your equation is completely deviating from the new result which is published, which means that you had left something in that data model. Now try to explore that and try to find what you had left there. Okay, so tools for data science is completely a meager amount. You can just see this diagram. Out of a whole circle, the usage of tools is a very small subset. Handling that Excel, handling your domain knowledge is very important rather than handling the tool. That alone, you just keep it in mind. Okay, with this, I am just directly going to how to handle the MATLAB version. Just give me a second. Within this, if you have any doubt, you just post it in the chat box. I can answer it. Is there any question? Okay, once again, my MATLAB is opening. Just give me a minute.
Participants, can you please post your questions in the chat box, please?
So just give me a minute time, sir. It's opening actually.
Yeah, take your time, sir. I know it takes some time. So meanwhile, there are two questions. Will you be answering now, or can we take at the end of this session,
Sir,
sir?
yes, sir. I'll just take out, sir. What is the question, sir?
How to use API in Excel from Madhura Kale.
Okay, I'll just show her. Just I'll select a random. Is my Excel visible?
Yeah, it's yes, sir.
For API, what you have to do is you see. Actually, in Microsoft Excel, this data tab is the least explored tab, as of my opinion. So when you just go into this data tab, and what we have to do is, in this data tab, you can just collect the data from here. Okay, so there will be a lot of opportunities like collecting the data from the web, from table range, recent sources, existing connections, and get data from the other sources also will be available. Okay, from online sources, from other sources. So this is how the API can be done in the Excel. I think I answered Madhura. So the left part of the data tab is completely used for the API. And the next one is Shivakumar. Can we get data from import.io, kaggle.io for free of cost for research? Yes, sir. In import.io, kaggle.com, few data sets are available. Uh, if you are doing it for research, I will suggest that if your institute has an valid user license for Science Direct, you can directly rely upon that. More than going into import.io and kaggle.com, you can directly go to Science Direct and Springer, and you can just start scrapping it out using the import HTML scrapping. That will be easy than, because import.io and kaggle.io will give you the data, but if it is in research, how will you ensure that it is so valid data? So if it is from a valid journal, then I can just believe that that is already had gone through a large amount of reviews and other things. So that will be good, I think. But Kaggle and Import are giving certain amount of free data. And Shruti, for qualitative analysis for labor productivity, safety, and construction, which tools can be used effectively? I think Ramesh Karan sir.
Yes, sir.
Ramesh Karan sir is the more apt person to answer for this question.
Yeah. So, madam, we'll be focusing primarily on the numeric data. So first we need to understand the data types. So for the regression or for the ANN And for the other soft computing techniques, we'll be looking into the quantitative data. So we can get the data, we can predict it, or we can do a regression to find out like which one is optimum. It's most of a goodness of it. For a qualitative indices, like we would be looking into the concepts like physiology, where a lot of vagueness or the linguistic variables rather than the numerical variables will be dealt in detail. So physiology is our best tool, and you can coordinate physiology with the what do you call neural network called ANFIS, adaptive neurophysiology inference system. So those things that probably can use it for the qualitative analysis. I've done for labor productivity of form of systems, and probably I've used a lot of these in tandem with the soft computing techniques like physiology. Then there are other technologies like the gray area of physiology is also there. So you can explore those things for a qualitative analysis. I think I've answered your question, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. So the important point here, what we both want to reiterate is the tool knowledge or the coding and the other things and all 30%. How well you have a domain knowledge is going to be playing a key role here. So be clear that strengthen your key role. That will give you a lot of things. I think the next one. Is there anything else? Sir, can I continue, sir?
Yeah, please continue, sir. No questions at that point.
So is my MATLAB visible, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here, using usage of MATLAB. Normally, this is the MATLAB screen. If you had gone through the MATLAB, if few of you are not very well familiar with the MATLAB, you just keep this in mind. MATLAB is a package, coding package, where you can do a large amount of things. Large amount of things can be done. So here, the objective of this part is going to be very simple. Using a basic graphical user interface, GUI, in your total MATLAB to get the values what you want. So in this MATLAB, top left corner, you just see home. There will be next one plots, and there will be apps. So better always go to the apps. So you see, when you go to the YouTube, they will be confusing it with typing a command like NNT toolbox and all. That is not at all required. You just directly go to the apps. So when you just drop down, you just click on the drop down button, you can see numerous apps. So normally each and every app is for different things. For example, regression learner is different, PDE modeler is different. There will be even image processing also is available nowadays. Deep learning is also available, but that and all is not going to fit in to my work. Okay, so now what my objective is, I have to predict the total set which I got, I showed you for fiber reinforced concrete. My multiple regression analysis told that its R-square value is 0.93, and for flexure it is 0.89, and for tension it is 0.85. So now I have to increase my values. So now what I can do is, I can directly come into the neural net fitting. So just click on the neural net fitting. I just clicked on the neural net fitting. So neural net fitting window is also available, right?
Yes, sir.
So you can directly go to the application what you want of your choice. So I'm just going to demonstrate how the neural net fitting works here. So you just go to the neural net fitting. What they are going to do is, there will be input and target. As I told you, in data science, the important terminology is input and a target. So what I told you is, there is a certain amount of input, certain amount of target. So you can just store it in a .csv file, or dot Excel file, and you can directly import it here. But I am not going to do that. I am just loading the sample data. Okay. So building energy model is here. I am just loading the sample data. So I had just loaded the sample data. Otherwise, you can collectively have .csv file. .csv file in two forms. One will be input will be a separate file. Target will be a separate file. Just go and browse it and take it. Now I had loaded a sample files. Okay. So see here, 14 rows and 4208 columns are available. I'll just show you how much. See much. So when I just upload it, it will be looking like this. So 14 rows are there, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows are there, and 4,000 something columns are there. Similarly, for target also, 3 rows are there and 4208 things are there. Okay. So now these two are very important. Okay. So I had just uploaded the data or selected the data. Okay. So just click on to the next. So here, yesterday, as Mr. Kailash Ram has mentioned, you have to select how much you are going to train and how much you are going to validate and test. So training and testing, validation and testing, you will be allotting equally. So what I had done is here 70% is allotted for training and 15% and 15% is allotted for testing and validation. That is 30% combinedly for testing and validation. So I can just change it to 5% also. I can just change it to 5% and I can keep 90% training, 5% validating and 5% testing. And again, here I will tell you what is training. Training is nothing but the machine here, through the MATLAB program. My laptop is called here as a machine, and my MATLAB program here is called as an interface. So this interface is going to learn, and this interface is going to make my machine learn how the things are working using that data. As I said, if a person retired at 60, usually we will be asking him to retire and his experience goes away. But if it is taken as an input into your machine, this machine is going to learn that 60 years also along with another 1,000 years. So that is how it is going to act. So training is out of the 4,208 columns, how many columns or how many samples is going to be taken for training. So I just allotted 3,788 samples is being allotted for training. Balance 210 for validation and 210 for testing. So usually maximum, at the maximum, try to have equal amount of validation and testing allotment. Like if you are allotting validation 10, testing also 10. Allotting 5 validation, testing also 5. Don't confuse that alone. Okay. So I have just selected, just click on next. So this is the architecture. So I have 14 inputs. You can just see here down, you can see 14 inputs. I have one hidden layer. And what is W and B is weightage and bias. That is completely programmed already. You don't have to worry about that and all. So weightage and bias is not my headache as of now. As of a basic data scientist cadre, I don't need that weightage and bias. So that is having. So here you can just see number of neurons. Here a simple logic is selecting the number of neurons is 2/3 of the input plus the number of outputs. So here 14 inputs are there. 2/3 into 14 plus the output is 3. That might be the neurons that can be. See, some others are there who will be having a trial and error with the neurons. They will start from 9 neurons. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. They will go on until 20 or 25 neurons and they will test which one is having the maximum performance. That is different type, trial and error. If you don't have that kind of thing, you can just put a simple thing 2/3 plus into input plus output. So automatically you will be having the neurons. I'm just for this sake, I'm keeping it as 10. Next. So you can just see that my model is creating a network. After this step, it will create a network. Okay, now network has been created. Now I have to choose which algorithm I am going to train my machine. See, MATLAB, this application is a very simply and enormous good kind of application wherein I don't have to work or code anything. So just click on the download button. You will be having 3 algorithms defaultly inside that. So select any one of the algorithm. Normally, you will be using Levenberg-Marquardt algorithm because this uses the back propagation method. Back propagation is nothing but training, it validate, it test, and after testing, if it feels that it is not good, again it will go train, validate, test. Okay, so that is how it works. Now I am just training my total network. Just click on train and wait for the training to happen. You can just see the bottom training is happening, and now another screen it came. Okay, now the training was completed. Now I am opening the performance window. This is called as the performance window. Sorry. Can you just see the performance window? So in this performance window, you can just collect the performance chart also. See here progress, the 19 iterations is 19 times it had went again and again through the back propagation method, and at the 19th time it had told that I had achieved the maximum result. That's all. See here, it started at the first iteration, 0th iteration. It started, and slowly what happened is it goes on reducing, and at certain level what happens is even after that it is not going to have any variation in the mean square error. So there is no variation in the model. So it had stopped at the 19th iteration. It stopped and it gave you the result. That is how you have to read from the performance plot. Okay. So now performance is over. Here you can see that regression value is here. Here for training it shows 0.92. For validation it shows 0.91. And for testing it shows 0.89. You just can see here the R-square value is the important statistical tool for us. So we just check here. Okay. Then goes on to the next. So if something is happening and if something is not coming, for example, in this window itself, I'll check. If, for example, if it is not coming 0.9, it is coming 0.7. Just click on the retrain and wait for some more time. Again, it will retrain it. Okay, now the iteration had become from 19 to 37. No, even now I am not satisfied. Again, retrain it. Try to retrain it more and more and more. So now, even now I am not satisfied. Again, retrain it. So I will be retraining it again and again until I get a satisfactory result in this window. That is how I retrain. So next, go to the next one. So here you don't have to do anything here. If you want to test additional test, okay, if you want to incorporate or add something to the earlier one, you can just add this input and target at this stage and train again. When you crosses this stage, you cannot again do any corrections. Okay, so now I'm not going to do any additional thing. So I'm going on to the next value. Okay, so these are the very simple things, deploying of the solution. So here deployment is not my part. Okay, so I am not speaking about the deploying part. So I am only speaking about the other part. Okay, so I am just if I want to deploy this, what I will do is I will just take all this thing. I think if you are so well versed in MATLAB thing, you know what is in Simulink. So you will get the Simulink diagram and other diagrams. You will be directly connecting this model with the Simulink. So which means that Simulink will give you an additional weightage of creating your own software. Now my objective for this paper or my objective for this session is not to create a new software. This is to create a predictive model. So I'm just sticking on to that. Otherwise, I can just click onto the Simulink diagram. It is generating, actually it is taking time. So that diagram, I can link it with the Simulink so that automatically this model will be directly deployed there. Deployed means it is being completely allotted as a software. Once again, it's generating.
So meanwhile, there's one question in the chat box, like from Shruti.
Yes, sir, I'm coming. Sir, can you read the question, sir? Wait, sir.
You said a satisfactory result. How to decide this? I think probably like ma'am, sir, when you retrain, right? So probably she might be asking like how to decide
Okay.
when to stop it or something.
Ma'am, satisfactory results is in the sense the R square. You while deciding your goal, you would have gone through something like my expectation level or what to say, the performance level. Let us speak in the term of performance. If you might have expected that my model should perform 95%, which means that approximately R square will be around 0.95. Okay, so my R square value is 0.95. You would have stated it in your goal. So if this model is giving you only 0.95, or if your model is giving only 0.92, that is not going to have any valid reason. So you will be retraining it until that 0.92 becomes 0.95. That is what I told as satisfactory. Satisfactory in the sense of statistics, anything above 0.8 or 8.85 in R square can be deemed to be fit enough to have a model. Anything above 0.8 R square is deemed enough to fit a model. But if your expectation is 0.95, you can retrain again and again until you get the satisfactory model. That is what I told it in that time. So you can just see here, a Simulink model will be created, and you can just do all the things and you can run. That is actually not our objective, so I'm not touching it here because my system will not support so much of workspace because it requires a little bit higher RAM speed. My laptop is i5 8 GB RAM. It requires 16 GB RAM with the graphic card. So I'm not touching this part. Again, I'm going to the MATLAB part, which we left. Okay. We left it here. So here what we are, this deploy solution is completely, if I want to create this model into a software, I'll just go to the next results. Okay, so you just save the results. Always don't forget this save the results is very important. Okay, well, where will this save the results be stored is initially in the workspace, the starting workspace of the MATLAB. You just saw building input target. Now you can see after this analysis has made, error value had come, info had come, net had come, and output had come. Our main target is error and output. You can just see, open the error. You can just see these are the errors occurred and these are the outputs. So you can now you just understand that the first column, second column, and third column, these are the outputs. For example, I will just show you until 22. Okay. Selecting any one of the, so I had just copied it, Control C. Okay, I had copied it here. So this was the predicted value. Okay, this was my output. This was my output. So originally my target was this. So I took until 22, right? This was my target. Okay. Now I had modeled with the input and the target. Now I had got the predicted value. Just imagine that, can I compare these two? So this line and this line can again be drawn into a scatter plot, and these two lines can again be visualized, and a trend line can be drawn for that, and R square value can be acquired again for that. Okay. Similarly for this for every cases, because that 0.95 is the combined case. We can have an individual case. So for this a simple methodology is what I am doing is Control C. I'm just taking it as an, for the time period I am just deleting it. You don't have to delete it. You just can keep as it, just to demonstrate I am deleting that. So these are, one is predicted and another one is target. So insert, go to the scatter plot. Now as scatter plot came, then go to the add trend line, display R square equation, and just see that, okay, this is my value 0.95. For I had took only 25 data set, but there is 4,200 and something data set available there. So just collect all the data set and I can just make this chart. So if I want to deploy it as a software, I can directly deploy it using the Simulink application, which is the additional part. This is how MATLAB can be efficiently used. So what the clear objective of this session is, in MATLAB, you does not need any complicated coding language. Nowadays, the modern MATLAB is giving you large amount of application. Start exploring few applications which is fitting your problem. That is very important. See, if you are don't having if your total data set is quantitative data set and you are going and clicking on image acquisition, that is not going to give you anything. So try to identify the right application, try to identify the right amount of data, and try to have the right amount of valid results with you. That will give you MATLAB and MS Excel can give you a large amount of if you are from academics, it can be a good research project, and it can be converted into a good publication. That's what I just needed here to say. So with this well sorry. So the major usages, as I told you, tools is only a minimal percentage. Your own idea and domain knowledge is very important. Okay. So coding and application, this and all going through again, what is a neural network? And the most important part is I just want to show you another paper which was published. Why I'm showing this is, until now we were again and again speaking about numbers. Don't ever imagine that numbers is going to be the only input data. Here, when you see here, in convolutional neural network, image will act as your data. So these and all are the basic studies which has been made to find the collapse. So you just see that these red color boxes is a simple annotation made using a normal Adobe image processor. Okay, Adobe Photoshop. So what done is, wherever you collect but again saying, there is again misconception that painless work, collecting only 4 images, creating a data and publishing a paper is not at all possible. So your model needs support of maximum number of data. So instead of going and working physically, you are going to work on your system for larger time. Nothing is being easy here. But if I want to have a system to create a collapse, so you just see that I had taken a few things and I had just shown you where are the failures. Okay, where are the failures occurred. Now, when I just train this, whenever the red box is there, it is failure. Wherever the green box is there, non-failure. So actually this is taken from another journal. Actually, it is not my work, it is taken from a journal. See, understand one thing, this journal considerably had taken 1,500 cases of collapse, and they had made the machine to learn. Just to see the last diagram, even after 1,500 images, it is showing non-collapse. So 1,500 images is not even required now. Now they have to increase their model. That is what the beauty of data here is considered. Okay. So with this, I am just ending. So it is not only numbers serving as data, images is also serving as data. That we will be, if time purpose, we will have an another separate workshop where we can just see about image processing and other things. Okay. With this, I end my session, and it is open for a question. If any questions rises, we can answer.